The Forgotten Kingdom has just released in South Africa over the weekend. Joining me on Google Hangout is director Andrew Mudge. Now, Andrew, before we get into it, this movie is beautiful. The story is beautiful. The imagery is beautiful. It was filmed in South Africa and Lesotho. Tell me, why did you decide to film it in these locations?
I went there and found that such an extraordinarily beautiful country, and no one had made a film there before. And that struck me as sort of amazing. That it reminded me of kind of the American West, how I imagined it used to be like 150, 200 years ago. It has such a mystical element, the country, the land, the people. I was surprised that very few people knew about Lesotho, even in South Africa, let alone the rest of the world. And I thought it would just be I just thought it would be an incredible adventure and artistic project to try to make a film in this country.
Well, I want to talk about the main character, Atang. Can you tell me what it was like developing this character?
In some ways, he's more of a passive character where he's kind of existing through the story and things are happening to him. I mean, he's in almost every scene, and the kind of the way the film works is he's sort of on an odyssey, and all these other characters come into his world and kind of influence him, and they steer him this way and this way. I guess in terms of working with Zenzo, he possessed a really nuanced, subtle way of playing the character, very small, not with words, not with a lot of dialogue, but really with his presence and with his eyes, and that for me was the essence to the character, to make it feel very intimate. Yeah.
Well, he has quite a story to tell. What inspired this story?
Well, again just coming to Lesotho and for me the experience of kind of discovering this place I'd never heard of, and then I learned about these stories of people leaving not only Lesotho but other countries, Botswana, Swaziland, whatever, to go work in the gold mines, and it's kind of a universal notion that people leave their ancestral ground, their homes, to go, and they want to make it in the big cities. And I knew about, and especially in Lesotho, so many the HIV/AIDS was coming from people from the gold mines, and so often people would be, the first time they'd come home would be when they were in their own coffins, so they had already died. And I thought it was a great launching point. Like, how do you get a character to return to his past, to return to his homeland? And for me, it seemed such a rich sort of storytelling hook to have it be to return, to bring his father back, to bury him, to return his own blood to the soil where he was born, to give him a burial, and then from there, that's like the launching point for the film.
Now, what was it like casting for the film?
Casting was a real adventure. I mean, it was we got like our 4 or 5 main actors was through traditional casting, which we did here in Johannesburg with a casting director, Bonnie Lee Bowman, and that was for about 5 or 6 roles. But then in Lesotho, we cast primarily non-actors, and that was like a massive kind of campaign where we traveled around the country. We saw over 2,000 people. It was like American Idol, African Idol. We had all these auditions, and people would come back, and we would just sort of have mass auditions, and we narrowed down our choices. Like the boy actor, he gets probably the most recognition in the film because he's kind of a discovery. He's a really extraordinary young actor who steals most of the movie, and we found him among 700 other boys. And he was in a school, he'd never acted, he'd never had any experience, but he possessed, like a really natural ability to pay attention and to listen and to just respond to everything very naturally. So it's fun. It's incredibly fun for a director to discover talent to kind of go on that journey and meet people and engage them and sort of see if they have that ability to be an actor, and that's been really fun.
Well, it must be quite an experience to have maybe 5 or 6 professional actors in your film and then cast the rest of the film with non-actors. Was that difficult for you, or had you done this before?
Well, I have done that before, but I think it elevates. I mean, this is what most directors will say, is that when you combine non-actors with professionals, there's a process of osmosis where the professional actors they bring up the game of the non-actors, and suddenly it elevates the game of everybody. So our young actor learned an extraordinary amount just from being with Zenzo, from rehearsing with him, and from actually when shooting the scenes.